So,
I get to do lots of interviews, but it's rare I completely agree with what the host is saying, because you just said you want to make the world a happier place. You said, what's the number one cause why people are sick? You got it right there. People are unhappy, they're lost, they're confused, they're sabotaging their life. And it's no wonder the age is actually dropping. Did you know that? We are in the last 5 years, we've actually dropped almost 5 years. And for the first time in history, we are actually, modern history, we should say, we're now flatlining. We're not getting younger as time goes on. If you look at the CDC, they actually predicted that children born today will die 5 years sooner than their parents. First time in recorded history. So we've got to become happy. And how do we become happy? You and I know how to become happy, but we got to teach those people.
You have always looked so happy and so vibrant. So tell us your secrets.
Well, number one, I think what you have to do is find your purpose and your passion. I always call it the PP. If you find your PP, you're going to have the S. And the PP is a purposeful life that you're living with passion. As you know, what you do as a profession, you went into because you wanted to help people, you love it, you're joyous about it, and you're fulfilled. So at the end of the day, if you're not fulfilled, there's going to be little perforations in your emotional and biological person. And that's where the disease and the disorder comes in. And so I think that's number one. And a lot of people say, well, gee, I've got to make a living and I really don't like my job and I'm in a partnership and a marriage I don't like. It's all up to you. And I'll never forget, many years ago, we had a young woman here who in her late 30s. And in my class, she decided that she was going to leave her occupation. I didn't know who she was at the time. And shortly after, a couple of the other guests said, she was on the front cover of the Chicago magazine about 2 months ago as the highest paid attorney, female attorney in the history of Chicago. Her salary back then, this is years ago, was $1 million a year. And then settlements. And she decided here at Hippocrates to leave. So I didn't ever let on like I knew who she was. But the next week in class, I actually asked, what do you think you're going to do? And the answer she gave was so heart-wrenching and provoking to me. And it taught me something. She said, when I was a little girl, I was the best in kindergarten. I was the best in grade school. In high school, I was a queen. I was the top of my class. I was Phi Beta Kappa from the top of my, Ivy League university. And she said, for the first time in my life, I'm not going to do what other people told me to do. And I'm not going to be best at what they want me to be. I'm going to find what I love. And she does. She's an artist now, by the way, and I'm sure she's very successful in that. Maybe she's not making millions of dollars, but the reality is, I'm sure she's a contributor to the human race.
Wow. Beautiful. Have you seen, because you've seen so many people there, I don't even know how many people have come through the Hippocrates Health Institute, which is a beautiful, incredible ground. I mean, I spent a few days there and absolutely loved it. You've seen many, many people. Have you seen how people's mentality, how their mindset have prevented them from healing?
That's everything. The hardest struggle for me, because I come from a biochemical and nutritional background. I'm a naturopathic physician. And so I always thought that everything was about lifestyle and about nutrients. And back in 1980, they, I think unwisely, but I was lucky, made me the director of Hippocrates along with my wife. And I was just ambitious enough to agree. And ever since 1980, I've been trying to figure out how to do this job. But one of the things that happened when you go from a worker or a person who has a functionary position to the person who's directing an institute, and an institute like this, that people come here asking for us to help them save their lives, change their lives. I no longer had the ability to be casual about this. Let's put it that way. And within very short order, I would see that some people would do exactly what I told them with nutrition, and they'd still be sick. But I woke up a little bit, although I was much younger, I woke up a little bit and started to recognize that I was hearing a similar pattern of the way they perceive life. And that pattern was they thought life was a struggle. They thought problems were inevitable. And it forced me to start to search for somebody I used to think was quackery, to be honest with you. Psychologist, psychotherapist. I used to, I'm a guy who grew up in the New York area, and we were taught to be tough, and no matter what, you chew nails, and you got to be weak if you need a psychologist. But I interviewed 17 people and finally chose this lovely, extraordinary 70-year-old woman who was actually married to the poor end of the Cabot family in Boston, the professors over at Harvard. And she came in, and instantaneously, two things happened. First, I realized that how wrong I was and how right it is to look at people's concerns and to help them release the burden in their life. And if you do that, then people are likely to and apt to start to eat right and think right and not tolerate bad relationships and not work in a position just to make money and survive, but they want to thrive. And so the liberation factor here at Hippocrates, and I think any legitimate healthcare system, to be honest with you, starts with the way people think. That is inevitably and without question in my mind now, after using this for 42 years and as a director, the single most important factor in people's well-being.